So the German industry that created all of the chemicals that then go into German manufacturing, that just stopped. And that is, for the most part, still offline. And you have German companies like BASF, which is their chemicals major, literally dismantling entire facilities and moving them to Louisiana to tap American gas. And then third, they've built some facilities to import natural gas in liquefied form, much more expensive. But because of the shale revolution, the United States actually has enough natural gas to help out. And so that has those three things have patched. And last winter was really warm. So the worst case, or really the expected case, didn't happen. And this winter, we're finding out how much all of their patches really work. It's a much more normal winter now, but they started the winter with the reserves full. Cost Europe like $800 billion to fill those reserves. But they're starting from as good of a position as you can. If it could have been fixed in the first few weeks, they might have been able to rehabilitate it, but there's been salt water on the inside. The outside of the pipeline is corrosion resistant. The inside is not. And so they would have to relay the whole thing at this point.
God.
He'll probably not be getting rid of the central bank after all, because that, among other things, regulates banks, which is a relevant thing. But he's absolutely right that the situation in Argentina is awful, and it is the fault of the Peronists, and this is because of decades of deliberate mismanagement, and things will get worse before they get better. That doesn't mean I think he can fix it. That means I don't know. I wish him well. But oh my God, what I can tell you is that Argentina has an excellent agricultural system, a pretty good infrastructure system, great naturally navigable waterways, an excellent educational system, and arguably the healthiest demographic structure on the planet. So
Wow.
the bones are good. You just need a government that is not dedicated to destroying them. So even if he ends up being a D-grade president, it's an improvement. No, they're basically take the most destructive and economically nonsensical aspects of socialism and fascism and put them together. That's Peronism.
Wow.
This is not the first time a non-Peronist has won the presidency, and his party is the third largest in parliament. So he's got his work cut out for him no matter how this goes. Peronism is that the government is the representative of the people, socialism, and the determining factor in the economy, fascism. And so there are unions which the government runs, and the government has the right to intervene in any part of the economy at any time in order to recreate resources. And one of the ways that they've kind of patched that all together and made that nonsense work is to just print currency like mad. So they also have hyperinflation. I mean, I always like to use Argentina as a cautionary tale for the United States. It's like, if you get up every day and commit yourself to making your situation worse, after 9 decades, you can eventually get past your natural gifts and your demographic gifts and ruin it. But it takes a dedication that I have never seen out of American politicians. Yeah, remember, we've got a couple of things going on in Europe that are happening here too. The population is aging very quickly, and most of the countries in Europe have aged past the point of no return. So they're on a long-term path towards national dissolution because they just stopped having kids. That's in Germany, that's in Spain, that's in Poland, that's in Italy, that's in the Netherlands. Second, globalization is dying, and the European economy was founded on the idea that we can all get along, and that means Europe can export anywhere. That's no longer the case. Throw in the Chinese product dumping to make it worse. So they need a new economic and social model anyway. And at the time that their population is aging out and they're desperate for labor, you have migrants on their southern and eastern borders wanting to come in. Those migrants are, for the most part, un or low skilled. Now, from a purely economic point of view, it's actually a pretty good match. The Germans, the Italians, the rest, they don't have a lot of young people. So bringing in young, unskilled people to assimilate and to do the work that the Germans can't because they're too skilled, that's actually a pretty good match. But that's not how the Europeans see it, because under globalization, they've gotten more and more specialized, more and more value added, and they just export. Now that that's not an option, they have to do something that's more holistic internally, and that requires a more balanced labor market. Immigration would provide that. But you're talking now about making an economic transformation, and the people who would be responsible for making it work are different color. So you get
Very
all of the
interesting.
economic pain, all
Yeah,
of the social pain, and more of your electorate are old, and old people, they're crotchety and they don't want to learn Sudanese. There are some interesting debates going on in Europe about all those topics right now. I think it's important just to understand the scale of what has to happen here if the economist approach to this is going to work. Take Germany, population roughly 85 million. They need 2 million people a year under age 25 for the next 30 years. And so people who say that immigration is the solution, like it can be a patch, it can be part of a broader approach. But if that is your solution, your countries won't exist in 30 years. And I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but that's just math. The solution is to encourage your own people to have more kids. And that means relatively pro-natalist policies like you see out of places like France or Sweden, where it's easier to have a family. But there is no way you do that without a much higher tax base.
there's no
It's
way.
expensive. And
Yeah,
so we're going to have to, all of us are going to have to do things that we don't like to do. We're going to have to make some hard choices. Canada has proven that you can make immigration alone its solution. But Canada is a very, very special place with a unique political identity. I don't think that's replicable. Inward migration to Canada on a per capita basis is triple that of the country in second place. I don't think anyone else can follow Canada on that path. We have to find another way.
this is
England is a set. Well, they're not a settler state, but they're functionally in the same basket. If you're talking about the settler states, New Zealand, Australia, the United States, Canada, and to a lesser degree, the United Kingdom and Argentina, we have a much more fluid definition of citizenship. And so we can bring in a higher percentage. Where that number is, of course, is subject to much debate. But we can do it and sustain it much more than the nation states of Europe who are ethnically defined. So Germany has honestly, I think, bent over backwards to try to loosen the definition of German, but just the scale of the problem, the shortcomings in numbers are so huge that it's just not enough. In Italy, they haven't even tried. When you immigrate to Italy, you're pretty much living in a ghetto. Poland's even worse. Here, however, you know how when you fill out a form that asks you your race and your ethnicity,
yeah,
and how if you mark the first one white, and then down below the subcategory for white Caucasian is Hispanic or non-Hispanic.
yeah.
The reason for that is that Mexican Americans specifically, usually by the second generation, define themselves as gringo. They define themselves as white, regardless of what their skin looks like,
Sure.
because they see it as a cultural term that means we are part of the ruling class. It's something to aspire to. And for the most part, American culture agrees with that. One of the great things that I think Donald Trump did on race relations, of all things, is to convince the American hard right that the Mexicans are part of the club. That was a huge achievement. Exactly. Just because what he discovered is something the Democrats haven't learned, is that the only group that's more opposed to inward migration to the United States than the labor unions are existing Mexican Americans.
Yeah,
He figured that out. They haven't. I mean, I don't think any of us have a problem with the idea that corporate America wants to be more responsible. I don't think any of that pisses anyone else.
right.
Anyone's off at all. The idea is the tool to get there, and the problem is that no one's using the same tools, and there's no unified metric. So everyone has made up their own criteria. Some of them are really dumb. But in the broader societal issue, we're going through a political reshuffling in this country, and the factions that make up the parties are moving around, and some of them are jumping ship, and some of them have been pushed off the ship. So Donald Trump was successful at drawing.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am back
লোকেশন মার্ক
with
করা।
brand new video. In this video, I have been content creator in his famous geopolitical strategist and famous writer Peter Zeihan has discussed Germany. In this video, he discusses why Germany's future hides on critical sense today. So guys, if you wanna be updated about current geopolitical updates, then you can subscribe my channel and watch each and every of my videos. Because in this channel I have uploaded only this type of videos regularly. So if you want to learn about geopolitical relationships, then this is the best channel for you to watch. I daily upload this type of informative videos in my channel. You can check out my videos, and if you think this is suitable for you, then you can subscribe and watch each and every video from my channel. I hope this video may be enjoyable for you, but you also enjoyed.